The gold mine analogy. That can be a little tricky because it sounds as though there's just treasures sitting around waiting for someone to come along and pick it up. But today we're going to dive into what that really looks like in real estate. And it is really analogous to actual gold mining, and that gold wasn't just laying around for anyone. People had to dig and do some work until they found it, but when they hit it, in many cases they hit it big. So we're going to take a really close look today at one of the most dynamic multifamily markets in the state of New Jersey and Passaic County. Join us for this analysis now. Welcome back to New Jersey Living. My name is Corey Jones. I'm a licensed real estate agent here in New Jersey, and my role has been and will continue to be helping hundreds of people just like yourself either find real estate to purchase, some cases sell homes, some cases to rent. So we're going to take a close look today for those, especially investors and those buyers that are very savvy, looking for an opportunity to buy, live in something, maybe temporarily, hold it long term. And that is Passaic County. So let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to start with the map. All right. So we're going to pull up this map of Passaic County, understanding where it is geographically in the state, understanding why we may not hear that county mentioned as frequently as some of the others. Obviously, you have Hudson County that's right directly across the Hudson from Manhattan. Bergen County that's along the Hudson as well, directly across from the Bronx, and then Yonkers, very close proximity to the city. So we hear of these a lot. We hear of Essex County a lot because of the suburbs that are there. You have the oranges that are there, West Orange, South Orange. You have Montclair, South Orange, and Maplewood. So there's counties that do receive a lot of notoriety because primarily of their proximity to the city. Passaic County kind of that forgotten brother, if you will, in that the county's not as large as, say, Bergen is, for example. But it is a location that offers still a relatively convenient commute. I won't say easy always, because those who are traveling in from, say, certain locations in Passaic County are not going to have as easy a commute as others that are right along Route 4, say like a Clifton and a Wayne, for example. All right. So we're going to take a look just map wise, pointing out proximity of Passaic, which is directly west of Bergen County, to Manhattan. Certainly commuter friendly for some locations, but the bigger picture is the multifamily inventory is significant in this county, and we're going to dive into those numbers right now. Those of you who have been watching for some time, you know that I am very much a numbers guy. I like to see what has happened in a given market most recently, and normally that's within the past 30 days. So as I always say, let the numbers, let the metrics be your guide, definitely in real estate. So what I'm presenting to you is objective data. Try to keep subjectivity to a minimum because I'm not here to present a lot of fluff. So those who have watched me for some time, I hope can appreciate I'm trying to give you value add information so that you can make informed decisions based on what we see in the market. So for what we see right here, we have 50 transactions, and you'll see some of this flashing up on the table. 50 transactions for August 2025. That is definitely reflecting what happened in the spring market, which is the most active market of the year for real estate. So these are reflecting what people were doing in Passaic County as a whole. 50 transactions for the month. We're talking an average list price sale price ratio at almost 5.5%. So majority of properties on average are still selling above list price. All right. That doesn't mean that you can't get bargains. All right. But it's not extremely high because we know that as you've been seeing in many of my episodes, the state average is 8%. And it is performing below that state average. And this is overall. This is not just multifamily, of course. Average days on market, 48 days on market. So that really shows that, and I would say when I think about Hudson County, a lot of your multifamily inventory, I won't always, but it can easily get into the 40s and the 50s. All right, for multifamily inventory, but location and condition absolutely do matter. Price range, and this is what's again attractive for Passaic County, 390 up to 900. We're going to get a sample of what both extremes look like and what it looks like to be more in the middle. So we'll pull up some live examples of what did in fact sell in the month of August. All right. And so the weighted average price, 678. But there are opportunities. So if you are someone who is definitely inclined to buy and hold, or if you are inclined to be able to buy something, do a tear down and new build, this is another thing to consider. A lot of investors are still, especially when it comes to the tear down and building new, places like the Heights, where I did a recent episode in Jersey City, is very, very attractive because of what the price points yield in the Heights. For example, if you were to do a tear down and do a two-family, if you condo converted it, it's still going to be about maybe 700,000 for a 3-bed, 2 or 2.5 bath, brand new condo in what's essentially a two-family or a duplex. All right. Or if you were to sell that two-family altogether, again, brand new construction, you're going to have a garage at the lower level, living space behind that, 2 levels above it. In some cases, even a rooftop terrace. That can yield anywhere about 1.3 and up, like closer to 2 million in a location like the Heights. All right. So when we're looking at that compared to Passaic County, we're going to see some Paterson examples that you're not going to get that type of price range and that kind of attraction in Paterson. So what you purchase that lot or that building that's going to be torn down for, it really needs to make economic sense, and what your overall investment of construction is going to be. That needs to make sense, because the above $1 million market for multifamily, we're going to see, is not at all as prominent in Passaic as you've seen in Hudson. But that's where you start thinking about what the long-term potential is if you're looking to buy something as a rental property, because there certainly is a very, very strong rental market in Passaic County. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at some specifics with this past August performance. So the first data point we're going to jump into is the market share distribution. As we see here with market share on this pie chart, we see of a total of 50 transactions, the vast majority are in Paterson. Paterson is the largest city in the county. It's the county seat. There is definitely far more inventory to be sold there, so you're going to find more inventory being sold there. Followed by Clifton, Passaic, we see Prospect Park, Hawthorne, Haledon, and then the others. The others are going to include Wayne, Pompton Lakes. I want to say Wanacue had one transaction as well. So your more urban locations tend to have most multifamily properties. Now, Clifton is not really an urban area. Clifton is neighboring to Paterson. There are sections of Clifton as you get closer to Passaic that have most of that multifamily inventory. Passaic is something that you would consider to be more urban-like than some of the suburbs, but Clifton definitely a more suburban town than it is urban. But Clifton, as you can see, at least for this month, had a solid showing in second place in terms of total volume. Prospect Park is another area neighboring to Paterson and directly neighboring also to Hawthorne. Hawthorne, another very, very much suburban location close to Paterson, has some multifamily inventory as well. But we can see the bulk of your options are going to be in Paterson. So let's keep that in mind as we see what are these other metrics in terms of days on market, list price, sale price ratio, and general sale prices look like. So that leads us to a conversation about the top performers. Which markets that had available multifamily properties really showed the highest demand. So as we take a look, we have 6 that are listed here that had the multiple transactions. Even though you only see 2, Hawthorne, Haledon, that's a small sample size, but it's reflective of the reality. Hawthorne is a very, very attractive location to have a multifamily. All right, so because the school ratings tend to be about B plus on niche.com, but it gives much higher ratings than some of your neighboring towns, such as Paterson and Passaic. All right, just going to have lower scores. Clifton is solidly going to be B plus as well on niche.com. So we look at Hawthorne. Hawthorne, list price, sale price ratio, 15% above for 2 transaction, 8 days on market on average. All right. Haledon, 10%, almost 11, call it 11, but you can see 50 days on market. Third, Prospect Park, 10% again, 20 days on market. Passaic, 5 transactions, 7% above. List on average 118. So that's starting to show you that some things sit a little longer depending on location. All right. We also have Clifton is showing up here. 8 properties sold in August, 5.5% above list price, 47 days. And Paterson, 27 transactions, slightly above. So we know just by looking at that number, we are aware that there definitely were some options that came in below. We're going to take a look at that in just a moment on the overall chart. Okay. 43 days on market. All right. And we can see the market share of all of those in the far right side column, how much of the percentage of the market that it took up. So we see areas that are going to be higher demand. They are going to be areas that really check off big 3 items, right? So if you see my episodes, Hawthorne, for example, I have a Hawthorne episode. I have a Clifton episode as well of the 6 right here. And both of those were 2 out of 3 check marks on the big 3. And for those who may be new, you're wondering, what am I referring to with the big 3? The big 3 are the 3 things that really drive demand in real estate in New Jersey, specifically central and northern New Jersey. One of them being generally a 1-hour drive to Midtown Manhattan. Second, having a local train station in the municipality. And third, school ratings that are somewhere in the A range, A+, A, or A-, as indicated on niche.com. So those factors really drive a lot of demand. If you have a check mark in all 3, Wayne is one of those locations, right? Wayne is one that's going to have check, check, check. We don't see Wayne up here because Wayne is very much more suburban. They had one and only one multifamily sale for the month of August, but Wayne is a high demand location. Hawthorne and Clifton both have 2 out of the 3. And they are probably just looking at the other ones without, and this is just anecdotal, me reflecting on this. Those are probably the only 2 that have 2 out of 3 on this list of 6. All right. So the rest probably are 1 out of 3 at best. Okay. But these are the things that drive demand. So we can see why Hawthorne, we see the numbers that we see right here. All right. And Clifton is going to vary a little bit, but there's definitely solid rental demand for both of those locations, both Hawthorne and Clifton, because people feel very comfortable with the school situation for those 2 locations. Before we take a closer look on some of the individual property samples from the month of August, I want to put out a few very valuable resources to both who are looking to buy, whether you're looking to buy for yourself in terms of primary residence or investment. I want to provide you with a few resources as well as to those who are homeowners right now. For those on the buy side, if you're working your way through the buy process, or if on the investment side, you are looking for some key insights, I do, and again, I speak from an investor as well, so there are efforts I do on my own behalf and those who I work very closely with. So I say that because I know some investors would love to establish partnerships. Others just like information, and I operate accordingly, all right? So we'll provide you with a QR code for those who are in the process of buying right now or just want some insights on markets. Reach out. We'll provide that context for you. We also have a QR code for those who are coming in from outside of the area, learning a little bit more about the Garden State. This is a good QR code for you if you are learning for the first time or in the process of learning about New Jersey, or if you're coming from out of the country and are considering purchasing in this market. For our homeowners, we have 2 resources for you. One of them is a complimentary CMA. Reach out to us for a market analysis on your property, no string attached. No expectations, just providing you with insight on your value, which you want to have updated at least on an annual basis. And secondly, for homeowners, if you are cash curious, you just like to know what an investor would offer you for your property in cash today, reach out. with this QR code, and I'll be able to provide that insight within a 48-hour time frame. Okay, so before we take a look at some specific examples, we're going to take a look at one more visual just of prices by municipality. We see that Paterson, starting with the biggest volume, range from $391 to $900. The range is, you can see the range, $509,000. Big difference. You can imagine big differences in the condition of the property, location as well. Clifton range from $415 to $905. Passaic, $520 to $900. Prospect Park, $560 to $780. Hawthorne, $790, $795. Again, we only had two. And Haledon, that one I believe only two as well, $700, $720. So let's go and take a look at the entire list, and we're going to pick out a few specific examples to give us an idea of what that low end range looks like and what does it look like on the high end of those ranges. All right, we're at the GSMLS full list of 50 for the month of August. And let's first just take a browse. You know I like this. Those who've been watching for some time, you know I like to reference this column right here pretty extensively. I also like to reference this right here, days on market, pretty extensively, okay? So what we're looking for is just visually. Let's start on the far right, days on market. Days on market, we're really expecting to see anywhere from 30 to 60 quite frequently based on the numbers that the general averages that we've been seeing. We see some outliers right offhand, a 243 day, a 405 day, which took a while, right? But we see a 76 where we see some teens, we see some 20s, 30s, 40s. There's an 80 right here, 111, but again, teens and 20s and 30s. We see 139 right here for one of the Paterson properties. And even at 139, I mean, it's worth noting that 139 days on market, look where it sold. It sold at list price, right? Despite that weight, it's still sold at list price, all right? And then the one above it, 36 days, but it sold under. So every situation really varies. Depends on the ownership situation, depends on the motivation. It depends on certain dynamics of the property itself, so it can vary. And then we see some others. Generally, faster sales reflect something that would be at or above list price, and this has been the case. But then we see the final one in Wayne that went below, but that one is kind of an outlier because Wayne is not a huge multifamily market in general. When you see a 0, that normally reflects that there was already a deal in place by the time this was put up online. Okay, so what we want to do in this case, I want to start at the very bottom of that scale. All right, so we want to look, and there was a 391, and this is in Paterson. This is 723 East 23rd Street. It was listed basically at 400, sold at 391, and we're going to take a closer look at that sale. Okay, so we're taking a look at that sale, and we see that 3-bedroom, 3 full bath is basically showing a 1 and a 1. So it's not really showing us a legit 2 bedrooms even, but this one cash purchase on the market for 17 days altogether. I'm not sure if we're going to see any interior photos, but let's see if we can see any right now. Yeah, we have a few. All right. So your expectations should be not too high if you're looking to purchase something at less than 400,000 for a multifamily. All right. Now this one is multi, but again, not a huge bedroom count. Work and upgrades definitely to be done. But at 400,000, if you're looking at a buy and hold situation and you put work into the property and you end up renting out, and then most likely what it probably was, and I'm just guessing here, is that the basement may have had a bedroom for the lower level, but it couldn't be counted, right, as a bedroom because it was basements have to have a second egress, meaning a second doorway that leads out, or a window well that you could basically just walk, crawl, climb out of in order to count a bedroom in an actual bedroom count. So the likelihood is that it was a first floor unit that had a bedroom in the basement level. But something like that, You're going to reasonably rent out a unit that's going to be 1 bedroom if it has upgrades. You've done some touch-ups that haven't be luxury by any means, right? But just some new flooring, newer countertops, and newer maybe toilet and vanity. Tubs don't always have to be ripped out. You can reglaze and resurface tubs to make them look virtually brand new. You can clean up tile in terms of grout and caulk lines. There's a lot of things that can be done to totally refresh, if it's done well, a bathroom and a kitchen space without doing everything new. Some new things are going to be warranted, like lighting, especially outlets and light switches. So that's all to say that you'll reasonably be able to get 1,600 for a 1 bedroom unit. If it's a 2 bedroom unit, even if it's a basement situation, reasonably 19 to 21. All right. So if you are looking at a long-term hold, knowing that your rents are going to increase over time, and you have that property as an investment property, which means that's something that really sits in your portfolio that if you need, you can leverage, right? Leverage that to take on debt to buy another. All right. So this is something, again, investors who've been doing this for some time and have portfolios are doing this all the time. So if you're relatively new to this, or you're thinking about just purchasing a property and having a multifamily, and what does that look like long term, if you were to try to build out a portfolio, I would love to have that conversation with you. You see my contact information flashing up here every few minutes. Definitely reach out. Let's have a conversation. Okay, let's look at now the higher end. We see what the low end was, and I'm going to stay in Paterson initially because I want to show two on the higher end. I'm going to do one Paterson high end, and there was another 900 sale. I believe that would have been Clifton. But first, we are going to start Paterson. We have we had neighboring properties, 756 East 18th, 758 East 18th. Both were listed $100 lower than 900. Both sold exactly at 900. They sold 2 days apart. I'm going to pull one of those up now. All right. So we see, again, 34 days on market, basically sold at list price. Now we have 8 bedrooms and 6 full baths. And we look at the count again, we see 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. And you're saying, hey, the math is not adding up. Why is it not showing 8 bedrooms and, the full bath count? And it's very likely because it could be that basement situation again. I'd have to see inside. I'm going to take a look. This one actually shows as tenant occupied. And let's take a look at what they show rents right here. All right. And they're saying showing both of these as rented. And those are some really, lower market rates. All right. There's only one photo of here, so there's no interior, which often happens when you have tenants that inside who they really don't want their property or their interior dwellings broadcast to the public. All right. So that does happen. So here we don't see interior, but we see that it is newer construction. It shows renovated 2023. All right. And I'm going to go to, it was the previous one. Let's see if both of them had the same. The next one, pretty much the same. There's no interior photos. There's no parking also. That's something to be noted. And I really like seeing this. See that property next door, right? That property next door, that's a 3-family. And given the depth of it, it looks like these are 3 sizable units. And this is what I'm saying. It's imperative just to be involved, engaged in multifamily markets. So something like this becomes available. It's not going to be 900 because it's not brand new, but it looks in pretty decent condition. That's 3 units. That's impressive. All right, but back to the point on this one. This is what a 900 looks like. So we're talking about a newly renovated. It says the best part of this property. It's a 5-year abatement. Now that 5-year abatement says no taxes. All right. So the taxes right here is showing $855. All right. For 2024. So that definitely flashes a lot of lights, right? So virtually no taxes for 5 years. Now, if it's a 5-year abatement, that first year probably was 2024, I'm guessing. Worst case, it was the second year. So they have a few more years to go before property taxes kick in. And when they kick in, yes, you're going to end up paying, right? Paterson taxes are not going to be, anything extreme like you would see in some areas in Hudson County by any means. But this is what that high end looks like when we're talking about Paterson. Now, the other high end, we're going to go back to our list here, and we're going to look to see at Clifton, because Clifton was the other location that had a 900,000. This one actually was on market 243 days. It was listed at 920, sold at 905. Let's take a closer look here. And so for the Clifton property, this is showing 4 units, and that is spelling out the price tag. All right. So when we look at this, we see right offhand, all right, it does not have anything indicating new construction. All right. Not even renovation, although this shows that some work has been done, but it's a fourplex. You can see that the rents, at least one, is relatively low. Then they have a 19, a 16, a 19. When it comes to 2 bedrooms, when you get below 19, that's really reflective of really lower than market, because 19 for 2 bedrooms is already kind of on the lower end, depends on condition and, of course, location. So one is going relatively low. Let's see if there are any photos here. Interior, and it seems to be the case. All right, so we have 4-family here, partial brick exterior, kind of, I don't know if that's clapboard or asbestos on the back, shallow backyard. I want to get to some interiors here. So this is one unit that is showing another unit. That's a different kitchen right there. All right, and as expected, I would say so far as expected. Now, the basement photos are important because that really tells you the overall health and condition of the property. You see that, you don't have access to a lot of the floor joists. It's an older, looks like sheetrock and not plaster, but it tells you a lot about the condition. All right, another kitchen here, another kitchen. So as expected, not much in terms of upgrade, right? So this is more so, I would say, a portfolio buy of what this can be long term, because as tenants transition out of this building, no doubt what a landlord is going to do is do some upgrades to that unit. And in doing upgrades to that unit, of course, it's going to reflect in the next rental rate. All right. But bigger picture than that is going to be how this property can be leveraged down the road in the future to purchasing other properties. So we see what both ends of the continuum look like. Let's take a look at some of those middle of the road examples as well. Okay, we've seen both ends of the continuum. What I'm looking for now, I have not predetermined quite yet if I wanted to go Clifton. I'm inclined to use Hawthorne because it is an attractive market to hold a multifamily. Prospect Park is another option that still is going to get very, very good traction. All right. But I want to focus on some that really present good value. All right. So let's look at Clifton. I'm going to go with this Clifton that sold 6% above list price, came out to 635. All right. So let's take a look at that. Kind of a middle of the road, right? So we have 29 East Madison Ave. It was on market 12 days. It was a cash purchase. Bedroom count here shows us 4 and 3, but when we see the unit layout, we see 2 and 1. But again, that basement conversation probably applied. Best and final offers due. So this tells you right away there was definitely a lot of traction, a lot of interest, and most likely multiple offers on the property. We get to see some interior here. Let's take a look at some of these photos. Kind of no frills outside. Inside, not a lot of upgrade. Look like there's some paint, some cosmetic work that is needed. And that's important to consider. We're talking about a middle of the road property that still had highest and best, 12 days on market. Needed cosmetic work still. So from a buy standpoint, whenever taking on multifamily, it's important to see big picture because the cosmetics don't necessarily spell out what that long-term value of the property is, right? So here you can see there's needs for upgrade. The maintenance looks really okay. All right. So from a maintenance standpoint, it looks fine. Just looks like it needs some touches with some flooring, some paint, some upgrades with vanity, maybe some tile work. Some of that can be done further down the road. We see a finished basement here. There's definitely a bathroom in the finished basement, a boiler that is not ancient. That looks like newer. And by newer, I mean probably within 8 to 10 years. All right. Both boilers looking pretty decent condition, backyard space. All right. So we see what that looks like for that Clifton kind of like overall middle of the road type of purchase. All right. And what that could present for you long term. And long term is this long term, many first time buyers that are considering multifamily homes, they want that ideal scenario. And these are not the investors, these are the first time buyers, especially those who are thinking the right way in that, hey, I want a property where I can have income, right? I can have income to offset mortgage, but where the analysis and the analytics that goes into what that looks like month to month, it doesn't always come into play is that unless you're 25% down, your income that comes in is not going to cover, your monthly mortgage, right? So you would need a 3-family, at the very least, probably a 4-family, and even then bringing in 25% to make that happen. Many investors are doing either all cash or they know what their rent roll is coming in as. All right. And they're going to be, again, ready to leverage that debt at any given time because they have 100% equity in the property. But if you're not an investor and you're that first time buyer and you're looking at, I'm trying to see if I can get in at 10% or at 15%. All right. So you are most likely are not going to cover your entire mortgage. All right. And there's still going to be some work to be done along the way. But the big picture is long term. What you get long term is going to pay off because the equity is going to increase. The appreciation value, the market value is going to increase. And your rent roll is steadily also going to increase. Okay. And this is over time. So it's a 5, 10, 15, 20 year kind of perspective when you're buying in that capacity of I'm buying this as primary residence that I'll eventually move on from, but it will be a hold. All right. So that's an important thing to talk about when you are trying that first go around of buying that multifamily property when you are primary resident and thinking I'm gonna have everything covered, right? It doesn't work that way without a commensurate amount of cash reserve that you're making the purchase with. All right. So that's something that is important to have a conversation with your realtor and knowing, again, with your lender as well, understanding what your prospective payments are going to be monthly, what your prospective rent roll looks like monthly, right? And what your long-term goal is in terms of how long you want to reside there and, what you would like to do as your next step. So these are important conversations to have as you dive into that multifamily search. So in summary, we're going to flash up some key market insights here. Some of these things we've already addressed. We see that we're still in the seller's market. It's still performing on average above list price, but there are some areas where you can absolutely get bargains. There's a reason normally that you're getting those bargains, but they can be had. Absorption rate, it's 48 days average. That's pretty steady. It's not hyper aggressive, hyper active in that you have to act immediately because as you saw, there are some that stretch into 60, 70, over 100 days. All right. And there's deals that are made, but there is a comfort that you can have in shopping around in Passaic for that multifamily without having always to be hyper aggressive. That's going to vary a little bit. I'm going to jump down to premium suburbs. So we talk Hawthorne, we talk Haledon, and now I'm going to throw Clifton in there as well. Hawthorne, Haledon, just in general, neighborhood wise, is a little different. The section of Clifton, as I mentioned before, that has a lot of the multifamily inventory borders directly on Passaic, and the neighborhoods look a little different than your traditional suburbs of Clifton. So when it says premium suburbs, that's why you don't see Clifton listed in that number. But these are going to move a little faster and at larger margins above list price. Paterson dominates the market. Most of your inventory is going to be there. Paterson really comes down to what area of the city are you looking to target? What area of the city, when you do your homework, where are your most solid rental demand locations? What are the hot spots? Call me. We'll have a conversation on that if that's something that you're looking into. Then we see the range. We talked about the range. What does the high end, low end looks like? What does the middle look like? And Passaic being an outlier, right? So 118 days on market. Passaic can vary, significantly in terms of where, someone is really looking to target a multifamily investment. So this is all to say there is gold mine potential, definitely, but a gold mine, keep in mind, gold mine is not walking down into, a little stream and seeing sparkling, sparkling particles or rocks everywhere just to sift out of the water. That's not mining, right? Mining, there's some work involved. There's some patience. There's definitely a need to have the data sets that you need, to have the strategy that you need, because you can find the right property for the right price that can be a viable long-term investment for you, or something that is the right fit to start as a first-time home buyer with an additional income producing unit. So there's work to do when you're mining for gold, right? But the fact that there is opportunity there warrants your attention and consideration. I want to thank everyone again for joining another episode of New Jersey Living. We have more content coming on a weekly basis. We're hitting a few other areas and even other counties. Our investment series is going to continue in a lot of different locations, but we are going to really dive hard into market data and what that means for you as either a homeowner or someone who is looking to buy. So again, if you have any specific questions or insights, you can reach out to me directly. My contact number is right here below. You can also find information in the description, including my website. And I would love to, again, be able to be a part of your journey, whatever that journey may look like in real estate. So as I always say, again, thanks for joining, but stay safe and stay tuned to New Jersey Living.